the health disparity is just like massive.
For me, it's kind of like I don't think it should be used for birth control.
After everything's been done, after they've been convicted, after it's been proven.
Trump likes to say he wants to protect strength. We need strength, right? We need to assume this isn't just an endless war, or that Russia.
Very tolerant, very tolerant.
Yeah, or that Russia can just take whatever they want.
So we're here at the U of I campus. We're gonna go sit at the Turning Point table today, help show some support for their event with Charlie Kirk. Also see if we can invite some productive conversation with some college students. I doubt it, but we shall certainly see. Make sure you guys smash the like button. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Let me know in the comments if you guys want more in-person content like this, more debate stuff. So let's have a good day.
Okay, so I'm curious to know about your opinions on immigration.
Okay. In what sense? Be a little bit more specific.
Well, I mean, it is like I've seen a lot of like I come from like an immigrant background, so just seeing the people getting deported, it is a little bit disheartening. So I am curious about how you or if you support Charlie, how you can see your perspective.
Yeah, I don't.
And I'm not here to debate, but I'm just here to understand.
Yeah, have some conversation. I get it. As far as like the humanity of it goes, I don't think anybody should be, celebrating as if it's a joyous thing. It certainly is sad seeing people get sent home or sent back to where they came from, especially if they have roots here. I definitely think that it's not a joyous thing, but there is an obligation to obey the law. And I think that the last 4 years show that illegal immigration has a pretty disastrous effect if it's unchecked and if it's allowed to become as bad as it got. And I think deterring illegal immigration is twofold. You have to strengthen the border, which Trump has done, but you also have to make a strong stance of deterrence, meaning you have to show people that, like, we will enforce the rules. The previous status quo was you come here, you apply for asylum, whether your claim is legit or not doesn't matter. You'll be able to stay in the United States for 10, 15 years until an immigration court hears your case, and then the judge will give you a deportation order and you don't follow it. So what's the incentive for illegal immigrants not to come here if they think that we don't, enforce the border laws?
Do you think that deterrence, though, should be like absolute? Because what Trump is doing right now is he's stopping not just illegal immigration, but also like the asylum cases as well.
Yeah.
And those are people, who are coming here not by choice, but by force, because of the background and like economic or political situation that they're coming from. So I guess I want to know your thoughts about that specifically, because these are people who literally are not coming by choice.
Right. So I think asylum is a very specific thing. It's fleeing political persecution or like threat of death. And I think a lot of people who are coming here trying to seek asylum aren't coming for that reason. They're coming because there's economic hardship maybe in their countries. Maybe it's not an overall safe country. But the criteria of asylum is pretty specific. So for instance, right, like in Afghanistan, all the time that we were there, we worked with local Afghanis. And so they put a lot on the line to help the United States military, hoping that at the end of it, they would have a pathway to come to America, because living in Taliban-occupied Afghanistan, they would be politically persecuted for helping the United States. So that's a clear case of asylum. People leaving, Venezuela because it's just a bad country isn't asylum. And the problem is what Joe Biden did is he allowed everybody to claim asylum. And because of that, because you get better benefits, you know what I mean? There's more protections, you get temporary social security numbers, you get access to welfare if you're considered an asylee. So they didn't process illegal immigration in the correct way. They made everybody asylees. And so it's hard to shuffle through who are the legitimate asylum claims and who aren't, when there's millions and millions and millions of these people.
How many were there?
What?
How many asylums? I guess, how many did Biden let in?
Illegal immigrants, 12 million. I would like to think that vast
There's so many
majority
different
were
numbers,
considered
right?
asylees.
Okay, so a majority of them, like at least like 10 million or so, you think, like around that?
Yeah, because I mean, no, what can you do in the country without some sort of like
Right. So they were granted that
ITIN
status
number or
immediately, basically, right?
yeah, you have to get some you have to
Okay.
you have to get some sort of ability to work, and so being an asylee grants you that ability, as opposed to like I think most people hear undocumented immigrant and they think like somebody just snuck in. They're basically off the grid, and that's not the case with the vast majority of the illegal immigrants that came.
So I'm wondering, I don't know for sure, but I'm wondering like if there could be an emergence now of new diseases or of existing diseases that now have an economic implication on the U.S. Because we're no longer working to suppress like the health, or no longer working to support the health infrastructure of these other countries.
Right. I think you make a compelling argument. My only rebuttal to that, it may not be like a great one. It's just more about why is it the United States' obligation to take care of the rest of the world, especially when we're struggling ourselves with a $2 trillion deficit, $36 trillion in national debt. I think in an ideal situation, if our finances were in order as a country, our people were, doing better than they are now, I think maybe that's a solid conversation to have, but let's not act like there still aren't hundreds, if not thousands, of philanthropic organizations dedicated to that mission. The World Health Organization is dedicated to that mission. So if the argument is without U.S. funding, like everything in the world just crumbles, well then that exposes a broken system that is from the start. Like, you know what I mean? I think countries are obligated to a little bit of self-sufficiency. I don't think everybody can just be like reliant on the teat of the United States. So I think, again, we're just going through a period of restructuring right now. I hear what you're saying. We can't maintain a $2 trillion deficit and $36 trillion national debt. It's impossible. Or else everything crumbles here. And then if your argument is the rest of the world is reliant on us to exist and things crumble here, then that inevitably happens anyway. You see what I mean?
I think there has to be a certain level of reliance, though, just because of how. I guess that's a point where, that's I guess why politics is so messy and so like one side versus the other, because you have different thresholds for what does sympathy look like, what does your level of moral obligation look like. But I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how it all evolves. I don't agree with what's happening, but now that we're in this.
What part? All of it?
Of specifically U.S.
Oh, AID. Okay. No, I just meant disagree in terms of just everything Trump's doing. But you said U.S.
I don't think I can disagree with anything in absolute.
Yeah.
But I also will say I can't tell you everything that he is doing, because if you look at all his executive orders, which I think have been the most, and
I love it. I love it. That's what governance looks like. Effective governance. It looks like signing 50 executive orders in a day to make shit happen.
Or you could argue, if a new president comes in, it's easily as quickly as it is enforceable, it could be just as quickly removed.
It makes it unpopular to remove it if it shows to be beneficial, though, if you know what I mean. Yes, somebody could just come in and reverse executive orders, but if the executive orders have a tangible positive benefit, that would be political suicide, i.e. Joe Biden coming in and reversing all of Trump's border policies via executive order, causing a massive immigration crisis, political suicide. So yeah, you have a point, but I think the American people, if they see good results from Trump the next 4 years and the continued, just discombobulation from the Democrats, I think the Republicans have at least the next 2 elections in the bag. All they need is a solid 4 years. I think you misunderstand.
Let me finish. I'm not quite done with my argument here, right? I'll give you.
I don't know what the argument is.
Yeah, well, I'm building it, right? The first point is that Russia's not unbeatable, right? That's kind of a myth, right? 2, right?
Of course they are beatable. They have nukes. That's the problem.
Well, okay.
You beat them, and now you're approaching Moscow, and Putin says, "Fuck them, let them fly."
The Ukrainians have no intention of approaching Moscow, right? At this stage, Right, again, the Russians are making advances at high costs. They are beginning to run towards the end of their armored.
I'm just listening.
Yeah, they are beginning to run to the end of their armored vehicle stock. Right, their economy is showing signs of strain. Right, so again, they're not just the unbeatable monolith. Right, they would like to present that image. Right. Trump likes to say he wants to protect strength. We need strength, right? We need to assume this isn't just an endless war, or that Russia, angry left,
Very tolerant, very tolerant.
yeah, or that Russia can just take whatever they want, right? Yeah. All right. So there's
If you say
several compounding
if
issues that
you
make
doubt
it
that
more
he
difficult
supported the
than just
protesters
they have a
at the
three-time
scale that it
larger
went out to,
population
then why would he pardon all those
first
protesters,
issue,
including
right?
violent ones that have
Is
assaulted
different in
cops
terrain. Not all of
right
Ukraine
after?
is
I mean, after
simple.
everything's
Southern
been done,
Ukraine is
after
more
they've been convicted,
easy for them
after
to
it's been
take in
proven
terms of,
without a doubt
terrain
that
than the forest in north,
they basically
right? Problem two,
I mean, they weren't
besieging
patriots.
I don't think it was a great
cities,
move.
right? That's a
I mean,
serious
I don't
investment.
agree
It requires a
with every single 100% thing that
huge
Trump does,
advantage
but
to do effectively,
I
right?
mean, I don't think it was a great
Ukraine has
move.
a lot of big cities.
I don't think it necessarily had any political upside or any political downside. I just think, he did it because he felt a lot of the people were politically prosecuted, meaning that a lot of them didn't commit violence. Maybe they trespassed, but is trespassing worth 3 years in jail? I don't know.
Admitted to assaulting cops or creating violence.
I think he just
also realize that this military strength and
But do
preservation
you agree with
of
that's fair? Do you think that's just pardon?
Do you not think that's a
violence?
huge threat to democracy?
Are you asking, do I think it's fair or do I think it's good?
And at that point,
Do I think it's fair? Yeah, the president has pardon power. Joe Biden pardoned his son, pardoned his family, pardoned the January 6th. No, I don't think there is. I think with Joe Biden,
Actually,
We're talking about Trump.
we gave more
To
aid.
go back to Joe Biden. We're talking about Donald Trump and his
I already
abuse
said
of
I didn't
power.
agree with it.
You agree that it was abuse of power?
No, I don't think it's an abuse of power. He has the power to do that. I disagree that it wasn't a great move.
Yeah, so he used the power in in an ill-mannered way,
Okay.
with ill intention.
But again, we gave
Don't
us
you think
that,
it was
but we
like
haven't even
The
dispersed all that money.
pardon
We haven't even
power
given it
is
all
to
yet,
release
right?
people from jail.
The
The pardon power isn't to preemptively pardon people. I think the way Joe Biden
right,
used
'cause it has-
it is a flagrant misuse of the pardon power. When you pardon somebody, what are you
But again,
doing?
right,
You're
so
releasing
it's
them
a
from
trickle,
prison,
right? So it's not like a
right?
lump
So
sum
he used it in
all
the
the
exact
way,
way that it's meant
right?
to
So
be
throughout the
used.
war, we
You can
figured
disagree
it
with
out,
who
not
he used it
like right at
on,
the beginning, right?
but it certainly
So-
his
and actually,
prerogative. Tariffs look
okay,
like this.
You're also convinced there's no
And then
way
it goes like that.
for
Like there is
the
going to
Russians
be that
hit a
initial
wall in
pain
Ukraine,
for
right?
sure.
So inevitably,
But just how
they would take
tariffs
over
work,
all of Ukraine,
tariffs
right? So
work,
sort
they
of a
will eventually
fundamentally
come back
defeatist
down.
position,
You know what I mean?
In terms
So
of
it's like
I think it's highly.
in terms
you have
of
to look
Ukraine,
at it
right?
in that
It's highly
long-term
unlikely
scale.
Russia hits a wall, but I think if they do,
COVID opened
they're not
everybody's
going
eyes to how reliant the
I-
United States
again,
is
this
on
makes
foreign
sense.
countries for basically or
Personally,
China in
because-
particular,
and
for
I
a
think
lot of
that
our
is
crucial
a
things,
scarier situation,
medical equipment,
Okay, so here's
cripple his economy.
chips from
What it
Taiwan.
looks
I guess
if
that's
he
a whole
really
separate
in a
issue,
position
but
where he
like.
thinks he might
Yeah.
use, I
The
think
golden
he's
age of
gonna
America after
relate
World War
to
II was
them,
spurred
results in
by
it.
we had a
I think
massive
that's much scarier.
manufacturing
So
production
for-
because obviously we just went through
That's
4
just me
years of
making
war.
assumptions, but
Yeah,
Good
like
paying
you said,
manufacturing
Putin's not
jobs are the crux of the middle
relationship kind
class.
of guy. He's not a
We
good
sold
guy.
out the middle
So I
class
think if he
in the
really
70s
thinks he's gonna lose,
in the name of appeasing corporations for the lowest
Okay, so
cost
here's-
possible.
here's some issues
Okay,
with that, right? So we
boom,
need to
that was
understand-
fine. Everybody got to enjoy cheap shit.
You need to
Fast forward
study
50 years
Russian
later, we don't
and
make
Russian
anything
lore,
here.
right, before
And that's
assumptions, right?
we don't make
Again,
anything. We have no middle
some
class.
fundamental-
So
well, I
it's
mean,
like we
again,
clearly
if-
need to bring
to jump
manufacturing
from-
back, and that's going to
it's really
that's going to take
No, well,
some
how he's not a
strong
good
action
guy,
because
right?
the entire
specifics matter,
global
right? Specifics matter.
global
Right.
economy
Back
is
to
so
specifics
intertwined that
matter.
it's
in
it's going to be a
kind of
mess. It's going to be a little bit of pain.
situation,
It's just
maybe,
the way
but
it
I think in
is.
this situation,
I-
he
I-
will
Would
stand
that be
for his
something that
country.
you slowly
And I
ramp
think
up
if
for the
he thinks
economy
he's going to
instead of
lose,
imposing
he's
all
gonna
these
say
tariffs
how.
at multiple countries, starting with our own allies to our biggest importers, Canada and Mexico, and then increasing that consecutively based on them not agreeing with us? Why can't we achieve the same thing we're going to describe by just imposing tariffs slowly and negotiating back and forth on exactly how much that percentage should be and what goods are like a good starting point. Right now, what he's doing is basically starting tariffs on all our alliances, even basically everyone at the same time instead of ramping that progression up. And
So you just don't like the speed in which it's
The
happening.
red button.
I can see the benefits of tariffs.
concept? Okay.
I can see the benefits of tariffs,
So
but
it's
he's all,
for-
the way he's
am I
using
about to,
tariffs,
like,
I don't agree with
are
at
we
all.
going
Like
to
he's
lose
using it
not
as
a foreign
like
war,
just
right?
as I
Are we
mentioned before,
going
like
to
something to
lose
blackmail
our
other
own
countries.
sovereignty?
It's not something. It's not
when it comes
like
I would
just
say
an
leverage
economic.
instead of blackmail, but I get what you're saying.
I used to support Trump
So
because
the
I
war is
thought that
not
he would like,
popular in Russia.
you know,
A full-scale.
China up.
No. But
But
the
now
point
I
is,
just
right,
feel very disappointed
Putin is
because
powerful, but he's not
you
so
guys don't
powerful
support
yet that
Ukraine,
he can
and
sort
I
of just
feel like
assume
if
he
China
can
and,
take the broader population
the U.S. have a
wherever he
trade
wants.
war, will
No, well,
Trump turn its back
dictatorships are more
against
complex
than
Taiwan?
Taiwan.
Because Taiwan is U.S.'s ally.
see,
Yeah.
And I
it's
also
not the
feel
same
extremely
situation, right?
disappointed because you guys don't support Ukraine because
No.
I
Okay,
used to have
it's not the same situation.
Well, when I was in high school, I
again,
have a Ukrainian friend
because
who
they're
would
not being
cry
invaded, right?
while he was
there's
eating
not like a
dinner
broad popular
because like his family's back in
There's not a real
Ukraine,
threat to
and I
Russia.
just feel
Most
like
people are indifferent, right? They'd
why?
rather
Like
go on
the
with
U.S.
their lives
stands
and
for
not worry about
democracy,
it,
but
right?
it's not helping
Putin
Ukraine.
is a dictator,
I know that
but it's more complex
U.S.
than that, right?
spends a lot of
Because
money
the way
on
that dictatorships
Ukraine,
work,
but
it's not
Poland
just like
spends
you
more
say what
money.
you say and people do what you do, right?
For sure, I know.
So
I'm
for
sorry,
instance-
I didn't hear that last
Oh,
part.
Poland spends
Exactly.
more money
But
on
also,
military
Putin,
support
but
than
also Putin
the
relies
U.S.
on a
does.
pyramid, right? of
Not
guys,
in
strongmen
total
guys who support
percentage,
him,
maybe of
right?
like percent of
Yeah, right.
GDP,
He's got
maybe.
guys. You know,
The the entire eurozone spends barely a little bit more than the United States has, so that isn't true. To your comment about
it's a little bit
Ukraine,
like a king's court. Though,
again,
right?
we
So
did support it for
they
3
do-
years.
he
I
gives
think
them
that the
power,
problem is
right? And he lets
the
them
war is
compete
going
against each
nowhere.
other, and he
Hey,
kind of
make sure you guys subscribe to my YouTube
but
channel.
he requires
Brandon Lehman.
buy-in, right? And if that gets weak, that could be a problem. So like the
Brandon.
Prigozhin situation, right? You remember when Prigozhin took a bunch of Russian troops and marched on Moscow, right?
It should be the first
If
one that pops up.
shit hits the
Yep.
fan, there are people who
I think that the
unreliable,
point
right?
is
That's why
we
Putin
can't
has to
keep
be
funding
careful,
a
right?
war in which
Putin has limitations, right?
there is no end game in sight. You
Yeah,
know what I
right.
mean? I think
That's all you gotta fear.
it's
Well,
going
yeah,
to be
and that
impossible
introduces-
for
that introduces
Ukraine to
limitations,
be able
right?
to
That
get
introduces
back
limitations, right?
its lost
So there's
territory.
limitations on what Putin can do.
And I think
Yeah,
fighting
right.
to that
Oh,
end is only going to lead
okay.
to
That's
endless
someone
death for the Ukrainians. You know what I mean? I don't think it's going to have the end
Well,
result
listen, under the Ukrainian
that you
constitution,
desire.
they can't hold
So I
on-
think
they
it's
can't
much
hold on
more
to democracy,
advantageous
right? So
I think
for the
that's a
global
separate
order
problem.
to look towards peace
there's a reason for
rather
that,
than
right?
trying to
It'd be
potentially
difficult
start a
with
world
Russians,
war.
right? Can you imagine the Russians
As it relates to
bombarding-
Taiwan, I can see
Well, we have
why
a
you
lot
might
of
have that
elections,
concern,
right? Zelensky
but I
was
also
elected in
think you're not
2019.
taking into account that we did greatly
yeah,
support
because his
Ukraine
term
for
came
3
during
years.
the war,
So it's
and
not
during
like we
the
just
war, right, it's possible
abandoned
that
them.
the
However, again, I just want you to
goal,
remember
right?
that we did support Ukraine for quite a while.
Once
No,
they
but
feel
if you
that
don't
there's
defeat
nothing more to
Russia,
be gained by
then
force,
I don't know how many years
then
later
it
Russia will
becomes
still
possible
invade Ukraine.
Well, that's his
achieve
argument, which is
negotiations, right, in a good faith
why
way.
would we
Right, 'cause
stop
Putin respects
bloodshed
strength, not
today
paper,
if
right?
bloodshed
We
may
need
happen
strength,
in the
not
future?
paper,
And I say,
right?
let's make
And
peace
a
happen.
peace
Do you think
term.
American troops should fight in Ukraine? Is that what you're saying? So you're advocating for World War III.
That's the 30-day ceasefire. I'm talking like
Thermonuclear war.
I mean, but they want that
End
good
of
faith.
humanity is what you're advocating for.
Well, okay,
No, I'm not.
we want that.
That's what
We're
would
asking
happen,
it from
though.
them.
Like, there's so many forms of birth control out there these days. Like, there's so many things you can do, you know?
Yeah,
But it's
word.
also like, if you were raped or
Incest, life of the mother, it's
anything
usually
like
the main ones,
that,
yeah.
I think it should be accepted at that point, but to certain circumstances.
I think if I'm not mistaken, and I'm not like abortion isn't an important topic for me, so I'm not incredibly well read on it. But I think that even the states that have the strictest abortion bans allow for life of the mother. I don't know about for incest because, like, think about it in this way: if you allow exceptions for incest, what's not stopping every girl who wants an abortion to just say that it was for incest? You know what I mean? So, but I know for a fact. I don't want to say fact. I think I know for a fact that life of the mother is allowed in all, even the most strict anti-abortion states. I think so.
Do you think Social Security is violating the Fifth Amendment's taking clause?
I don't know. What clause are you referring to?
That no property can be taken for public use without just compensation. Do you think Social Security counts for that?
Without just compensation?
Because the current return on investment for Social Security
It's terrible.
1%.
Yeah, it's awful. I would say, like, in theory, probably. However, I think what the government has realized is that if you leave investing in retirement up to the individual, outside of like people who have self-control, are able to live under their means, properly save, properly invest, have sound financial literacy, the best thing that you can do for people, for the most part, generally speaking, is take a little bit out of their paycheck every month, get some from their employer, and when they turn 65, they got at least something, right? I think if it was because you're 100% right. That's an argument that any investor would make. Every penny I put into Social Security, if that was invested at bare minimum into an index fund at 8%, after 30, 40 years, it's way more than whatever Social Security gets paid. So you're right in that regard, but I think for the most part, most people aren't financially literate, have self-control, know how to invest, and I think that's probably the best thing that you can offer them is some sort of safety net. The bigger concern that I have with Social Security is that it's a Ponzi scheme. I mean, if your money was actually taken and put in an account for you that wasn't used to fund the government in the interim, it might be a little bit better of a program. But the way that it's set up now, I mean, we're just paying. I mean, it's a complete Ponzi scheme, and there's not enough babies being born to support it. So it's like we're driving towards the edge of a cliff, and everybody's just like, I'm not going to be the administration to deal with it. I'm not going to be the administration to deal with it. I do feel as if Doge's efforts are successful, I think there can be quite a bit of waste and fraud removed from Social Security. The bigger problem is the typical Democrat argument is that illegals don't have access to Social Security, but that could be further from the truth. Well, I mean, in 2021, 3 months into the administration, this is before the massive bulk of the crisis, 2.6 million did have it, and that's just the numbers then. So if you take into account that maybe 10 million people came into the country between that point and the end of Biden, call it half, 40%. If 40% of those people got access to fake Social Security numbers, you're talking about 6 to 7 million people claiming Social Security. That shouldn't be. At $2,000 a month, that's quite a bit of money that you could save.